All right, guys. What we got here is a special treat. We got 4 Nikkormats that Mr. Wu is going to go over. And we all know how much you guys love Nikkormats. It's one of the most popular Nikons ever made. All right, Mr. Wu.
Yep. Okay, so we are back in action today. Today we talk about the Nikkormat. Either you know it as a Nikkormat with a single K or the Nikkormat with a double K. The single K Nikkormat was sold in Japan. The double K Nikkormat was sold in the rest of the world. Now, Nikon started the camera with a rangefinder, a very successful rangefinder, the Nikon S series. They got many models, S2, S3, SP, quite peculiar camera. They adopted the Leica cloth shutter, but they adopted the convex lens mount. Then all the Japanese companies were trying to outdo the German rangefinder company, very famous. Tried much as they did with a lower price with some clever innovation, they still could not break the stranglehold that Leica has on rangefinder. Even when Canon came up with all their best Canon 7, many good innovation, but still cannot beat. And when Leica came out with the M3, that writing was in the wall for them. M3 came out with so much improvements that they just call it a day. And at that time, the world was swinging towards the single lens reflex camera. The single lens reflex camera was made popular by this German company, Exacta, owned by the Dutchman, Johann Steenbergen. So that was a modular camera, and before the advent of the Nikon F, that was the de facto technical camera. So you can change finder, you can change lenses and do all kind of things with it. So Nikon turned their attention to the SLR. They took the chassis of the Nikon rangefinder and put in the mirror and put in the pentaprism. So if essentially they converted the rangefinder into an SLR. You can see the layout of the winding lever, the shutter knob, and all these are identical. So then the Nikon F took off, become very popular. So they majored on the high-end professional camera with the modular camera, practically any kind of accessory you can think of, they have it. But for the man on the street, it was a little bit too much. So Nikon decided to come out with another series which are lower price, but at first they were not too keen or not so sure how it would take off. So earlier they had some sub-series. If you are doing bird taxonomy and all this, you see these are the subspecies. So Nikon got a subspecies, they call it the Nikkorex. Nikkorex has a metal shutter. Original set was not made by Nikon themselves, it was made by the Mamiya company with the Nikon F mount. And then later on, this became the present day Nikkormat. So when the Nikkormat was in, it was a lower alternative. Some professional with the F, they don't want to spend an equal amount of money on the second body, so they bought one of these Nikkormat. Just as good, but at a lower price point. So the first Nikkormat came out in 1965, this one. This is called the Nikon FT. In fact, most of the features were the same until today. They did not change very much. So to mount the lens, you have this prong here, and you got to match the rabbit ear. But for this model, it was a very quirky way of indexing the aperture. You got to index the lens aperture against the ISO for each different lens. So imagine if you got a 3.5 lens, a 2.8 lens, and a 1.4. Each time you change, you got to do this thing. Very slow, not friendly at all. So you have this one. It was still the Nikon F mount, so the F mount have not changed. So once you have done that, the body is solid. So you got a copper shutter, vertical running shutter. Against the Nikon F was a horizontal titanium shutter. So by having a shorter travel distance, you can do the flash sync at 125. So good for your fill in daylight. Then with the metal curtain, you don't burn any holes. Right, so you got this solid body, no horseshoe contact. In fact, this was an add-on. So you have to get this together when you buy the camera. So this one is a cold shoe, just to mount your flash and accessory. So you put it on, then you use the eyepiece to lock it in. So mount the flash here, and then you put the flash cable to one of these ports. You got one M for flash bulb, X for electronic flash. So mirror lockup is here, depth of field plunger, then the shutter speed B to 1000. You can see the needle inside the camera, plus and minus, and then you can also see the needle on top. So the first version, there is just a prong with a needle, but no plus and minus. So it works. That's 1965. They have another companion camera, I don't have it here. It's the FS. Same camera without light meter, without the mirror lock. So slightly cheaper, but not so common. It's pricey now because it's rare, but it's a scaled down version. So you got the FT. Shortly after that, 1967, 2 years, they come up with the FTN. This is the most numerous one, the most popular one. Nikon Photomic FTN. The same year, Nikon F have the meter head, the Nikon Photomic FTN. So this time, the lens mounting is a little bit easier. So you don't have to key in every time, but you have to do what we call today the Nikon shuffle. Put it to 5.6, put it to the end, you made it together, clicks, then you twist clockwise and anti-clockwise, and then the camera, the body will register the F number of the lens. So it's faster. A little bit slower, but much faster than this. So the rest are the same. Still got the same shoe, the same two sync port, mirror lock, depth of field, self-timer. On this, just to mention the self-timer. The self-timer also can function as a mirror lock in some way. When you activate the self-timer, when you trip the shutter, the mirror goes up for a while. So for the 10 seconds or so, it has time to any vibration to stabilize before it clicks. So that was the self-timer. Then the meter, yeah, same. The meter you turn on by exposing the red dot, then the needle will start to work, the plus minus. This time, they put the plus and minus sign inside, so you know it's under or over. But the way the needle moves is opposite. Most camera, when it's bright, the needle will go up. When it's dark, the needle will go down. This one is reverse. When it's bright, the needle go down. When it's dark, the needle go up. So it's just reverse. So this very successful FTN. Then another, almost a decade later, 1975, they came up with this one. This one is called the FT2. From far, they all look the same, but the major difference now, they have a built-in hot shoe with a contact. And instead of 2 ports, now they only got 1 for flash, electronic flash. And these two use the outlawed mercury battery. This one, they start to use the common smaller battery, alkaline or silver oxide, which is even easy to get even today. So they have a better battery. Then they put a black dot on the depth of field, just cosmetic. So it's the same. The mirror lock is still here. And also a lot of button, they have black here. The self-timer also white stripe against the black. So some cosmetic difference. But the focusing screen on these two, it came with a micro prism. Then this one came with a split image. So you got microprism, you got split image. So this quite advanced, and this one is quite a pain to shift the ISO. You got to have good fingernail, and sometimes you break your fingernail in the process to push this pointer on here. So now they improve it, but there's a lever here, you pull, and that will release the friction, and it's very easy for you to slide the scale. So it is an improvement. So otherwise, very much the same. Loading inside have not changed, it's still the same. So then finally in 1977, the last version. This is the granddaddy of it all. That's the time when Nikon introduced the automatic lens indexing. No longer you have to do the Nikon shuffle. So this collar with the AI lens, some with without the rabbit ear, some with rabbit ear, doesn't matter. As long as AI, you just match the dots and just give a twist and click, that's it. They also make it backward compatible. So if I have the old style lens, I can flip this away. So when I flip this away, I can use back the old rabbit ear lenses. So this one down for the modern lens. So it's now faster. Shutter speed remain the same. The exposure remain the same. So essentially, it's just small improvements. Now this time round, the focusing screen is a combined. The Nikon call it a Type K. That means you got the center split image and a microprism collar around it, and then the rest of it is the ground glass. So all in all, you got 1, 2, 3, 4.
How do you change the shutter speed?
Yeah, there's a collar at the side here. There's an indexing button here. So all the same. Okay. So Nikkormat, this is the mechanical version. Later on, they have the electronic one. That one we have it for another day. So today, all the mechanical Nikkormats, in total, they produce around 1 million pieces. Very successful. So if you have Nikon F, Nikon F2, you want to buy a second body, this is very good second body. In fact, after so many years, all working fine.
Gee, thanks, Mr. Wu.
Right, welcome.
Fantastic. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.